We are going in Atlanta. We are going with some heavy hitters here. Opelka, Taylor Fritz, Alex de Minaur, Daniel Evans. Let me know what you guys think about this situation here. So, we have outright bets. Daniel Evans at 6. No, Riley Opelka at 6. Daniel Evans at 6. Taylor Fritz at 6. Opelka and Evans will go head to head tomorrow, and Opelka is the underdog here. Shouldn't Daniel Stevens be more favorite in the outright bets than to be equal with Opelka if he is the favorite to win Opelka tomorrow in the quarterfinals? And if you have something from the outright bets as a good value, but obviously this tournament is very, very balanced. So we have Opelka at 6, Evans at 6, Taylor Fritz at 6, Alex de Minaur at 7, Cameron Norrie at 7, and Alexei Popirin at 9, followed by the rest. James.
Okay, so again, this is always the problem with once you get partway through the tournament. I think very similar to with Hamburg, probably most of the value for me has already been taken. So I think Opelka was our outright tip at the start of the week, and of course he beat the tournament favorite Isner, and so that to me that was the most obvious play of the week by far in the outright market. But now that he's the favorite for the tournament, the prices look a lot closer to being right. I saw Sean Calvert, for example, tipped Papirin at 50s. Again, that could have been a play at the start of the week. Now that they've been cut right down, it's really hard to judge the value of them. I think Kecmanovic, for me, was someone that I was interested in pre-tournament. The difficulty is I'm not sure these conditions will suit him as well as on the grass. He played quite well on the grass leading up to Wimbledon. He's the kind of player that I would be probably happy-ish to back blind for the next 2-3 years. He's the kind of player who I think will have a lot of upside. So that would be one option, and certainly because I think if you go much further down the betting, I just find it very hard to see the value in any of the top sort of 4 or 5. It's an interesting point you make about Evans, him being slight favourite for the match, but not the favourite on the outright market. Again, I think that's just the bookies factoring in the upside of Opelka. Obviously, as a younger player, he's less exposed than Evans. I think Evans is a player that is a bit more consistently understood. So maybe that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'd expect for that. I remember when Evans played Isner earlier in the year, and I kind of expected Isner to not really have as much of an issue with Evans' antics as a lot of players seem to. But actually, he kind of did in the end. Evans seemed to get in his head a little bit. I think Isner he won the first set, and then he got broken instantly. And I remember watching it and just thinking, what Isner's clearly just not really with it in this situation. So it may well be a similar situation with the Pelka that Evans actually gets into his head. But beyond that, again, I really wouldn't want to be getting involved with the top of the market. I think Kecmanovic was someone that I was mildly interested in at the start of the tournament. I didn't particularly like his draw, or kind of like the price I was getting basically for what he had to do. But if I had to pick one, that would probably be my selection now at 17, because I think he has a very reasonable chance compared to the rest.
17, huge there. Snize?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Riley Opelka prevailed in the Battle of Trees. Two gargantuan men
With Isner, yeah, wow.
serving out of the stratosphere. The battle of the two enormously tall Americans. He emerged victorious there. He completed the hat trick of wins over Isner yesterday. That's 3 wins in 1 year. I don't know if we can go to as far as to say as he's dethroned Isner now as the king of serve bots, but he's getting there for sure. But Opelka has additional upside to Isner. Apart from his ridiculous serve, he has surprisingly good movement for a man of his stature. We saw the 21-year-old not only sustain, but in some cases outlast Stanislas Wawrinka from the baseline during his win at Wimbledon, which was very impressive to me. And the big man is certainly not as limited to just serving as his predecessors there. And with Isner out, Opelka has a great favorite of winning this tournament. I'd say he is the favorite For sure, Dan Evans has been playing great tennis since his drug ban comeback, but he hasn't got a good record against the big servers. So I like Opelka to get through there. I think his major threat would be Taylor Harry Fritz in the final. I think he gets there. Another American who has been playing extremely well this season, and I think we see an All-American final there. But as James also said, the value is mostly gone. You can get Opelka at, I think, 15-1 or something like
About
that
20,
pre-tournament.
about 20-1.
No, 2020 even, yeah. Pre-tournament, so at these prices, not something I'll be interested in getting involved with. But I definitely think that Opelka is the man to look out for when it comes to the outrights, if you fancy a tickle there now.
Yeah, starting August, we will preview all our tennis tournaments from Monday, so better chances to play the outright bets, better chances to have more value from the players like Opelka, who was priced at 20-1 and now is at 6-1. So yeah, I think that that is a good strategy to film, to have this video from Monday. But in terms of betting on the matches, on the single matches here, we have two matches in a few hours: King versus Taylor Fritz. Taylor Fritz, their huge favorite against number 405 ATP King. We have Umber versus Kekmanovic from Serbia there, also in a few hours after the Taylor Fritz match, with Kecmanovic at 1.84 and Umber at 1.96. Umber, I don't know, he impressed me in Wimbledon, also in doubles, also against Novak Djokovic. He played very good. What do you think? What do you think, James? Does he have any chances against the Serbian player?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was why I was put off with either of them outright, especially Kekmanovic was the one that I mainly considered, was because I sort of felt like the draw was just giving me a lot of coin flips that I would have to call, and I just don't know. I mean, I would say of the two of them, I would say Kekmanovic is he's probably less suited to these high bouncing courts. I think Humbert is,
Yeah.
a tall lefty whose game, possibly one of his weaker elements is his movement. I mean, I don't know, he's a very well-rounded player, but he's very tall. He's a lefty. He's going to like these high bouncing courts. It's going to give him a lot of time to whip that onto the Kekmanovic's backhand and try and just pull him out wide and create space. So, I mean, I think it will be very even. I think for me, I would perhaps say that Kekmanovic has a bit more upside, so that's why I went for him outright, and he's a bigger price outright now, despite being even money, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Kind of a similar point to what you made about Evans, but I think realistically for me, this is the kind of match that I just avoid. I have no desire to get particularly involved in it. You could even bet on it going long. It might go long. Atlanta's not a great place for that though, especially with the heat. So I would just leave it.
And do you have anything for the other three matches? We have two matches tomorrow: Opelka versus Evans and Nori versus Alex Popirin. Me, in particular, I really like the underdog Alexei Popirin at 2.15.
Yeah, so I think I kind of jumped. I didn't get on this early enough this week with Popirin, but I think he was probably the most obvious of the younger players. Who, again, this is the kind of place that should suit him. He's tall, he's got a big serve, big forehand, and Atlanta tends to suit those kind of players. He's from Australia, so the heat shouldn't bother him, and it doesn't look like it has been. So yeah, I think he's got great chances against Norrie. As I said before, my big problem with matches like this is I'm not great when it comes to really close matches. I tend to prefer to get slightly better odds. But if I had to pick one of those four, then definitely I would say that would be the one I would go for at 2.2 against Norrie. Norrie's not really a player who actually is that great to oppose, I think, generally. He sort of looks like he's a bit of a mess, but often gets through the matches. And I think he played pretty well against Soon Woo last round. So, I think this is the kind of matchup where it very much could go either way. But if I had to take one of them, I would definitely say the values with the Aussie there, yeah.
It's nice. Do you have the same opinion about no, about Popirinder?
No, I do not. I think that the odds are certainly pretty decent. But I went ahead last night and played Cameron Norrie. I think he's playing very well indeed, and he got past both Jordan Thompson. Though in a match that both players played pretty poorly, I have to say. But he got through Thompson, who I fancied to go far this tournament. He got past the dangerous Kwon, and the lefty Brit is definitely capable of causing major damage in this tournament when he's gaining confidence. He's going to face the young 19-year-old Aussie, as we've spoken, Popierin, and he's a Danish player in his own right and right at home on these outdoor hard courts. But the problem I have with him is, apart from his huge win over Team in this year's Australian Open, he hasn't really done much to higher class opposition this year. And he hasn't got a great record versus left-handed players either. He's coming in at 6-9 in his career, with 5 of those losses coming to players well outside of the top 100 in the rankings. We even have some 400 plus winners there that took him down. So I think when Norrie's playing well right now, he has a bit of an awkward style, very flat, which should suit these conditions. It's quite tricky to deal with, especially if you're facing him for the first time. He has a good slider serve, good slice. So I think that he definitely is rightfully favored here, and I think this is his match to lose if he plays up to his capacity. I think he wins this. So I got him at 1.74. Last night, the market has moved a bit against me there, but I'm still holding on, standing strong with Norrie there in that match.
I think it's an interesting one because this was kind of my point about why I was a bit slow on the bandwagon, because that was exactly why. It's his record just wasn't great, and I couldn't really read some of the wins. Like when he beat Team, I remember watching that, and Team was clearly not well. So he played well, but it's very hard to judge. So I think in this situation, I would agree with you on that. I find again those kind of prices, I find them very hard to pick with, because on the one hand, as soon as you started describing that, I can totally see that perspective, and I think that makes complete sense. But on the other hand, I just always gravitate towards the underdog. So I think it's the kind of match for me that's really difficult to read. And I think it really depends whether or not this is going to be a breakthrough tournament for Popyrin. I think the history is definitely on Norrie's side from that perspective, as you were saying.
All right, so
I'm
moving on. I still have another bet for the quarterfinals here. As I talked about earlier, I really like Riley Opelka here. Dan Evans doesn't have a great record against big servers. I kind of broke down this when we talked about the outrights. But anyways, I'm on Opelka here. I got him at even money. And I definitely think he wins here versus Evans.
Okay, great stuff from there. From the free ATP, before we go to the WTA Palermo here in Italy, there in Italy, do you have a favorite bet that you want to take and you want to share with our viewers, James?
Across all the tournaments?
Or across the three of them, the ones that we discussed, the Hamburg one, Atlanta, and Gstaad.
Well, I mean, Krajinovic is now drifting. I mean, if you can get anything close to 3.5 on Krajinovic, I think that's a very good bet. He's 3.4 currently. I would have probably had that closer to 2.5, maybe 3 at a push. So that would be, I think, my pick from those. I also like Opelka. My issue with Opelka is I don't tend to do that well when I oppose Evans in general. As I said to you with Isner, I very much expected this big hitting, big serving style to sort of neutralize a lot of Evans' mess, because he's just a very annoying player to play against. But against Isner, that seemed to be the case initially, and then Isner seemed to let him in his head a little bit. So I'd be a little bit worried about that. But I think that I would definitely expect Opelka, the way he's been serving this week, to be a very difficult player to get past. Very, very difficult. So, but yeah, I think Krajinovic would be my pick if I had to pick one.
So Krajinovic, best top tip from James. Snides?
Nicolas Basilashvili. I've been rolling with him all week. I've bet on him twice as an underdog. He's come through both times. I wasn't quite quick enough to get him as an underdog this time, but definitely rolling with him again versus Jeremy Chardy.
Okay, and we are done with the ATP Tour, and we are going in Italy, Palermo Ladies Open. Kiki Bertens favorite at even money there, and the rest of the field there. Snice, I will start with you here. Do you have any favorites on this tournament? Kiki Bertens, I don't think that right now we should even bother to bet her at even money here because she's been very, very inconsistent, and I really don't like that because I like her as a player, but sometimes she's very disappointing and she's very, very inconsistent. Do you think that she can do it? Do you have another favorite in this one? What do you have?
As you said there, this is a tournament based on the field and the players that are competing. This is a tournament that Burton should win without too much trouble. But then again, this is Burton's. She is very inconsistent. I still have not forgiven her for Hertogenbosch in her home country. 5 match points versus Alison Risk. Complete capitulation. Unbelievable. She was, I think, 1.00005. She had a 99.9% expected win probability based on the bookies' odds in that match, and she lost it. So wow, it'll take quite some convincing for me to ever bet an outright on her again after seeing that meltdown. That is just disgusting. But anyways, a play that I've been keeping my eye on here in Palermo is Paula Badosa Gibert. She's been playing really, really well, and I like her game. Young Spaniard, plenty of upside to her, and I think that let me just check the quarters here. Yeah, definitely. She's in that top half there, and I like her to go far. I don't know what the prices are, but any outright there would be on Badosa Gibert. I think that she's the woman to look out for.
17 with Betfred right now, her price, and yeah, she looks interesting, and she doesn't have a very, very tough opponent in the quarterfinals. She's playing Ras from the Netherlands, but after that she might play Bertens or Begu or Krunic, which all three of them are very, very tough for Bardosa right now. So I don't know if I would, but as a price at 17, yeah, it looks very interesting. Do you have something for us, James? I know that you love the ATP more than the WTA, but it will be interesting to see you have to see you talking about the WTA tour and especially about this tournament that we are previewing today.
Yeah, so I think so with Bertens, I think as you say, she's not been the most consistent player. I think also she's generally I feel like clay is a surface she tends to do fairly well on when it comes to the bookies odds. She tends to surpass them or do fairly well. So I wouldn't be jumping on opposing her, but certainly on recent form, I would be very happy to take some sort of opposition. In the outright market, I mean, these are not easy events really for the outrights because there's a lot of players at very similar odds. And so you're kind of taking a punt on one of them based on something that you think is important. I think for me, I don't know these players very well at all. As you say, I'm very much men's tour focused. But I thought it was interesting that Ferro was so short against Samsonova. Samsonova's just over 3 in that matchup. And I feel like she's been playing really well. I feel like she's been having a lot of kind of momentum go her way. So yeah, I kind of feel like that matchup is perhaps being priced a little bit stingily from her side. Maybe should have been closer to 2.5, 2.75, perhaps. I would have no idea on the outright market, I'm afraid. It seems very open to me. It seems like I probably would have had to be following this a lot closer. But I mean, if I think she's long against Ferro, then I feel like perhaps, you know, what is she? Yeah, she's one of the longest odds outright. She's 20-1 with Betfred right now outright. So, you know, maybe that would make some sense. But yeah, it's not really my tour.
Fiona Ferro coming from a superb competition in Lausanne, She won the final against Alize Cornet.
Yeah.
She is playing a superb tennis right now, and this is why the bookies have her at 1.4 right now, while Samsonova is priced at 3.1 with most 3.05, 3.0 with most bookies, so in that range there. But yes, Samsonova, an interesting player, but I really think that Fiona Ferro has what it takes right now at home uh, in Palermo to beat Samsonova and have another deep tournament. But as you said, this is not your favorite way to go with the WTA Tour, but
No,
you
no.
must do that more and more because every week we will preview some WTA tournaments, of course, and the Masters are coming, also the US Open, the 1000s, the I don't know, many tournaments that we will preview both ATP and WTA Tour. It's nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite play? Do you like an underdog here? What are your favorite plays for this WTA Palermo?
Just a quick note there, Fiona Ferro is French. She is not Italian. This is
Yeah,
played
not
in
Italian.
Oh, okay.
Italy, but VTA, WTA Palermo. So she's not playing at home.
Yes.
But I think I might oppose her. I haven't actually decided on that match because she is on off her maiden WTA title, and I'm always a bit reserved when it comes to those cases. I'm expecting her because she was underdogged all the way through that tournament and played a lot of really tough matches, including a three setter in the finals. So I'm kind of half expecting her to run out of steam at the end of the week. It hasn't happened yet, but as of right now, I'm kind of off her. The match I have looked at, though, is between Annalena Friedsam and Gilles Belen Teichmann. So in this match, we have a player in Annalena Friedsam. The road to recovery has been grueling for her. She hasn't played a full season since 2015. That's 4 years ago. She's been plagued by multiple shoulder injuries, multiple shoulder surgeries, and she's had to work very hard in order to actually get herself back on the main tour. And she's done pretty well. She's worked hard. She's came back in towards the end of February. There, she's mostly been playing tournaments close to home in Germany. But the former world number 45 is definitely looking pretty solid right now. She's played well in the WTA tournaments that she has attended. She's a real force on clay. She's won 64.5% of her matches on the red dirt. So yeah, facing her will be Gilles Belen Teichmann. She's having a breakthrough year. She won her maiden WTA title earlier in Prague this year in Czechoslovakia. The 22-year-old lefty is the fearsome opponent, but she hasn't really done much since, though, and that's always a problem with new players breaking through all the time, that it can be quite troublesome to follow it up after you go through a dream Cinderella story run, and then all of a sudden people are expecting things of you. And she's been upset regularly after this win tournament. She lost to Katie Swan in the Roland Garros qualifiers as a gargantuan favorite. I think she was 1.07 or something. There was humongous upset anyways. Yeah, 1.09. She's been upset to Kalinina around one of Båstad. She lost to Korpatch in the Lausanne quarterfinals, again as a huge favorite. So yeah, I like the more experienced player to advance in this spot. At a near pick 'em, I got Friedsam at 180, and I think she wins this match.